Hi, my name's Tristan from Proximity.fun. We are here to help you make more money with your proximity marketing campaigns. And today we're going to be answering that age-old question, how do we get our notifications to show up on people's phones? First, we're going to give you some tips on how to get the notifications to show up. And then after that, we're going to dive into some theory, why we think some of these things are happening the way they happen. So if you're just here for the quick tips, that's going to be this first part. If you want to know why these things work, that's the second part. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we recommend that you do is that you update the page's title. Now, this is what you would do from like your WordPress or from Weebly or from wherever it is that you built the website. This is typically going to be where you place your call to action. So whatever you want that little notification to actually say, this is where you go to change and edit that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this here in just a minute, but basically what this does is that it kind of like resets the notification or resets the beacon. So if you don't have very high engagement rate or if a lot of people are muting the notification, then this is kind of how you reset that. So the beacon management platforms who have managed a lot more beacons than we do and who have access to a lot more data than we do, as well as asking other prominent proximity marketers, the general consensus is to update these things about once a week. The next thing that you want to look at actually has a lot to do with that title, and that's going to be your call to action, so what the title actually says. So the first thing you need to know is that Google does have some not quite regulations, but they do have some guidelines as far as what they want those titles to say. That they want us to avoid gimmicky things, they want us to avoid anything that looks spammy, obviously anything that's discriminatory, anything that's illegal, or anything that's like hate text or anything like that. None of that's going to show up. So there's a certain level of common sense here, but there's also a level of marketing experience, knowing what's going to cause people to click on the link, knowing who the audience is, knowing what your offer is, and knowing why they care, and then communicating that in a short enough text that it can show up on the nearby notification. And so when you're adjusting that page title, ask yourself, does this look like a pop-up ad? Or does this look like a crappy spammy email? If the answer is yes, you should probably reevaluate your call to action. So we were kind of talking about click-through rates. If your click-through rate isn't very high, if people are ignoring that notification, Google's actually going to stop showing it. So again, we want to make sure that we're updating that page title. We want to make sure that we have a good call to action, because otherwise Google's just going to stop showing it. We have received a couple other quick tips I want to share with you before we kind of get into the theory of why we think this is happening the way that it is. One of them is that certain URL shorteners look kind of spammy, and so Google will actually just kind of blacklist that entire site. And so it might be wise to try a different URL shortener. We've actually had a little bit of problems with like Bitly in the past, but we've been working with TinyCC for about a year now, and we've actually been really happy with that. There are a lot of URL shorteners out there. So again, if you are running into these problems, it might help to try one of these other shorteners and see if that makes a difference. The other thing you want to look at is the landing page itself, if it's mobile optimized, if it's been SEO'd. And this is important for a couple different reasons. One is because Google needs to actually go in and read the content of the page that's being promoted, because again, they don't want to be promoting anything that's discriminatory. They don't want to be promoting anything that's illegal. They don't want to promote hate speech. And so if the page title says one thing and then the content of the page says something completely different, then again, you're not going to be showing up in those notifications anymore. And so it's important that there is some coherence between the two elements, but at the same time, you want to make sure that the page has been optimized in a way that Google can actually go in and read it and confirm that this information is correct. So you don't want to have like a single image with all of your text on it, because Google can't read pictures. They don't know what's in there. And if it can't read the picture, then it's going to think, this is just probably spam, or we have no way of being sure that this isn't spam, and so they're going to drop you off the thing. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can get into things like your schema markups. You can get into, like different keyword research and things like that, and really, focus in on the on-page optimization of that page, maybe even build up some good backlinks to it. You could also potentially send people to a different site, like maybe YouTube, that already has a lot of intrinsic authority, and so your notifications become more authoritative, just because of the way that the platforms are built. And so that could be another option. In fact, we do have a few beacons that are just pointing straight to YouTube videos, and they're performing fairly well. So just something to keep in mind. And finally, just making sure that the beacons are completely and properly programmed. So there are a lot of little things, a lot of little knobs and dials that you can mess around with the beacon. And if the information that's on that beacon, the information that's being presented to Google, isn't consistent, or if it looks spammy for whatever reason, then again, they're not going to be promoting that. So let's talk a little bit about why some of these things might work or happen in the way that they do. So you guys may already know that I also work as an SEO. I work with websites, and I also work a lot with YouTube videos. And so just recently I was actually rereading a white paper that Google put out a couple of years ago about the recommendation system here on YouTube, which basically is how they decide which videos to show you as a recommendation. So like you should be seeing videos on the side of the screen right now. And then when this video is over, you're going to see like another it's either 9 or 12 videos that will pop up at the end of this one that Google thinks that you're going to want to watch next. And basically what happens is they have this great big huge database of videos or of websites, and they have to go through and assign a score to these different videos in order to determine which one's going to be the most likely to call your attention, which one you're most likely to watch as soon as you're finished with this one. And to make the incredibly complicated 8 pages worth of text significantly shorter, they're basically looking at 2 different things. They're looking at the click-through rate, which is how often that video is actually clicked for every impression that it receives. And then the other thing that it looks at is the estimated watch time per impression. So every time somebody sees it, if they watch an average of a minute, then that's one of the things that they're going to be looking at. And what will happen is that if a video is being promoted as a suggestion, but it doesn't receive the click, or if somebody goes and they watch it for 5 seconds and then they go back and they watch something else, these are all negative signals, and so that will actually cause the score of that video to drop. And as that score starts to drop, instead of being the number 1 recommended video, it becomes the number 2, and then number 3, and there's only 12 of these things, and so as soon as it hits number 13, it's off the list. And so you're probably asking yourself, what does a YouTube video have to do with my nearby notifications showing up? Well, they're both owned by the same lazy company. So if you have a system that you're launching, right, the nearby platform, and you know that people can abuse it, you know that people already are abusing it, then you need some way to prevent that abuse from happening. And why go and reinvent the wheel? Why go and build something completely new when you already have an anti-abuse system on one of your other platforms that would work fairly well for what you're trying to do? Just take that little chunk of algorithm and stick it in this little chunk of algorithm, and you're done. You fixed the problem. And then you can throw in things like the mobile index, which determines how quickly, how well a website performs on a mobile device. Throw that in there too. Because if people are going to be accessing things on mobile phones, obviously we want that website to load up quickly and to look good on a mobile device. Then we can also pull in like the web crawler, so we can get all the information about the website and make sure that it coincides with what the beacon's telling us. Stick that in there too. And so if we assume, which of course you should never assume, but if we assume that they are using these bits and pieces of these other platforms that they've already built, which would make sense, then we can kind of see why some of these issues that we're facing occur. We know that if a website has a spammy, gimmicky, crappy page title, if nobody clicks on it, it's going to go down. We know that the same thing happens with a YouTube video, and now we're seeing the same thing happen with Bluetooth beacons. We know that if a website isn't well optimized, we know that a website isn't mobile friendly, it's not going to show up on a mobile search, and it's just going to kind of disappear. And we see that happening again with the Bluetooth beacons. So again, this is just theory. It's just an assumption. It's just something that I've been playing with over the last couple of weeks. But if that is the case, then we can kind of understand, again, why some of these things are happening. We can also understand some of the steps that we need to take in order to ensure that our notifications do show up consistently. And so again, that really comes down to making sure that we have a good call to action, making sure that our page is well optimized, and making sure that people are engaging with the content that's on the website. And when we do that, then we found that our notifications actually show up very consistently. So, not saying it's a magic bullet, I'm just saying that it's something you guys might want to consider if you're running into these problems. Oh, and make sure the content of your website and the promotion of whatever it is that you're trying to do is relevant to the location, because otherwise that's another kind of negative signal that tells Google that, this might just be spam. But I do hope that this video has been helpful. I hope that it's given you guys some ideas of things that you can look at if you are running into these problems. And again, our goal here is really that. We're here to help you make more money with your proximity marketing campaigns, and we do that by helping you provide better results to your customers. So if that's something that you're looking for, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it if you liked it, and you can also hit the notification bell in order to hear about any new videos that we upload. We try to upload once a week with videos like this, guides, tutorials, and news, just that way you guys are up to date with what's going on in the proximity marketing world. But that'll do it for me. Go watch one of my other videos, preferably one that's showing up as a suggestion right now.